Today in episode 8, we celebrate Women's History Month, and we're bringing you a conversation that spans the generations, delving into the power of womanhood. I will be joined by our resident Millennial, Natasha, and whereas our resident Gen Zer, Kennedy, is soaring the airwaves, we have someone from the silent generation stepping in. My mother, Mama Beck, known to many as Mom Dukes or Becky G, coming in to join the generational sip. In our discussion, we will celebrate the women who have shaped us, the triumphs we've experienced, and the challenges we still face in the modern era. So get your sip ready, get your eat ready, and join us as we explore the timeless power of womanhood. Hello, sippers. Get ready for the Set podcast where we sip, eat, talk, the ultimate blend of flavors and conversations. I'm Gina, your host, culinary enthusiast, and spirited conversationalist. Each episode will explore diverse topics, share laughs, and savor the moment with special guests. Sip on insights, eat up knowledge, and join the conversation. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube at SipEatTalk Podcast. Subscribe now for a journey that's as delicious as it is insightful. Let's sip, eat, and talk together. Cheers! Hello, sippers. Welcome to the Set Podcast where we sip, eat, talk. I'm your host, Gina. That's right, I called you sippers. Whether you are sipping on your cocktail, your favorite wine, mocktail, energy drink, coffee, or tea, you are a sipper and you are joining us, and we are happy to have you. The podcast can be found on 16 different platforms. You can visit pod.link to find one of those platforms, but highlighting that you can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on our social media platforms on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at SipEatTalk Podcast. Well, this is one of my favorite times where I am sipping in and letting you know what I am eating and sipping on for the episode. Today, it is an early afternoon on a Saturday, and yes, I did sleep in today, which I don't do very often, and I am sharing one of my favorite coffee recipes inspired in part by one of my best friends, and so I am calling this my warm and cozy concoction. So today I am sipping on the Kahlua White Russian coffee. You can find it on Amazon, that ground coffee, and I have mixed it with some RumChata. That's right, some RumChata. It is warm and cozy and has all the good feels. And my gifts are still coming in today. I am sipping out of one of my mugs that the bestie gave me. Shout out to Buffy. It says, "Enjoy the journey." I am enjoying oatmeal raisin pecan cookie. That's a whole mouthful, I know. Oatmeal raisin pecan cookie. Super yummy. I'm going to get a little bite. I didn't do a happy dance. I'm moving a little slow this morning, so I'm giving y'all a little I have to get my energy up. And so I also, I always want to know what you guys are sipping and eating on for the episode. So be sure to post your pictures and tag Sip Eat Talk Podcast so we can see what you are eating and sipping on for the episode and maybe get some good ideas and share them with our other sippers. So whatever you're sipping on today, let's get ready to cheers it up as we move into the generation sip and welcome the silent generation to the conversation today. That's right, Mama Beck, my mom, representing the silent generation. I know that this is going to be a great conversation. You'll enjoy it. You might even shed a little tear or two, but most importantly, we will celebrate womanhood, the women who came before us, the women still standing beside us, and the women coming up behind us. Cheers. Hello, ladies. Another installment of the Generational Sip. Everybody, my girl Natasha, my village sister representing the Millennial. Say hello, Natasha.
Hello, everybody.
And Kennedy Ray, our resident Gen Z, or my village niece, is in the air flying. As many of you know, Kennedy is a flight attendant. And as we are celebrating Women's History Month, we have a beautiful, if I do say so myself, stand in for her, representing the silent generation. Give it up, y'all. It's my mother, Mama Beck. What's up, Becky G?
Hello.
I'm so glad to have you, Mom. So they already know what I'm sipping on today. Mom, what are you over there sipping on today?
Sipping on sparkling apple cider.
Oh, girl, you got the champagne glass. Do that, Mom. What are you over there sipping on today?
I am sipping on coffee. Gotta stay energized. Wearing pink in honor of Women's Month.
What's your coffee cup say?
It says, "Stay on the bright side."
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, ladies, well, let's cheers it up for another edition of the Gen Sip. Cheers.
Cheers.
So today, as we sit and just discuss, we're just talking about womanhood. We're celebrating women, just giving honor to the women who came before us, the women that stand beside us, and the women who are coming up behind us. And so I would like to know for each of you, what does woman or womanhood mean to you personally? When you think about being a woman, you think about womanhood, what comes to mind for you? I'm going to start with you, Natasha.
I think our uniqueness. The older I get, the more I appreciate how unique women are, how nurturing we are, how community focused we are, how loving
Mhm.
we are, how selfless we are. But we can be like, so fierce at the same time, very protective. And I think it's our uniqueness. I've learned about, I honor, I love. It's glitters, it's rainbows, it's ponies, it's perfume, it's all those things together
All those things.
makes being a woman very cool.
How about you, Mommy? What do you think when you think womanhood? What comes to mind?
I think growing into womanhood is just like a bright ray of sunshine. Women play so many roles. They have so many different roles. They're the mom and they're the sister. You're the cousin. You're the aunt. You're the grandmother. You the girlfriend. You out in the workforce. We just wear so many hats and we wear them well.
Yes, I love it. I love that. I think that too. When I think about womanhood, I think about the versatility. I think about the women that I've looked up to, I've honored, the women I'm friends with, I'm family to. I like the softness. It's kind of what you were saying, Natasha. I like that softness of us,
Mhm.
but also being somebody who's been in corporate America and went further with my education. I love that ruggedness of us too. Like we're gonna hold our
Yeah.
own and
Mhm.
shine in the rooms that we walk in. And so I think all of that, all of what we said, I think represents womanhood very well.
Yeah.
I would like to maybe dive into so many times, which I love. There are so many people of a certain type of celebrity, whether it's an actress or a singer, a TV host that you see, someone of academia that we've never met, right? That we've never come in contact with, that we've hold in a certain esteem. But it's also those everyday unsung heroes, people whose names are never going to go up in lights or on billboards. And so I would like to know, who is a woman that you know that you would like to shout out that has inspired you along your journey? Who would that woman be for you, Mommy?
A couple of teachers, I always talk about them.
Yes,
They
you
were
do.
they were like mentors to me.
School
Miss
teacher.
Naomi Neals,
Miss Yeah.
yeah, that was one of my first teachers.
All right, Natasha, how about you? What's one of your everyday sheroes you want to shout out?
I would say I would name two people. These are the two women who carried me through
Okay.
because as a young person, I had my grandma, of course. Like my grandma, I could go on a whole speech and write a book about my grandma because she essentially like raised me. But I would say there are God places people in your life. I think especially women, because women need other women who, when
Mm-hmm.
you don't, like I didn't get that hands-on parenting, by my mother. So this one woman, her name was Sharon Askew. She was my math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
She was my pre-calc math teacher, and she was a Black woman. I was in this this college prep school. I was going through crazy stuff at home, and I would have to come to school and perform, and it was a lot of pressure there. And she took me under her wing, and she always made sure I got everything I needed out of school. She took me prom dress shopping when I
Oh,
needed
wow.
money, when I needed lunch. This woman carried me through as a young person at Germantown Friends School, and I could never, repay her. But when I say she made the difference, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? She like filled the gaps for me as a young person going through and not knowing that I was going through, not even knowing like who I was, what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
She carried me through. She took me to visit colleges. She helped me fill out college
Oh, wow.
applications
I love
and
it.
and, and Drexel and sat me down. This woman carried me through, and I could never, uh, repay her. She was a godsend. And I would also say Stephanie Thomas, who's kind of like a mom and mentor to me as I became older. I met her in my maybe mid-20s, and she's kind of served that same purpose, being a nurturer, always praying for me when I needed money. I've transitioned a lot. I've done a lot of things in life, and I've had some hard times. She's always been there for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I really thank God for them, because whenever you have a need, God feels that need. And it may not come from your blood family, but God has always put women in my life to lift me
Yeah.
up, carry me through, and support me, and to get me through my next step. So they've been a real blessing.
Oh,
A real
I
blessing.
love that. So you know what's something that we shared? So I feel the same way. Everybody knows how I feel about my mom, and she's my best friend. So you know that's a given. But I'm gonna shout somebody else out, and mine's also is an educator and a teacher. I felt very awkward in elementary school as I was tall, I was thin. God, I wish those days could come back. And I hadn't grown into the size of my teeth yet, and I didn't feel. I really celebrate my mom because she always did a really good job of telling me I'm beautiful and I'm pretty. But you know, sometimes it's not always the same coming from a parent, right? Because you think they're supposed to say that. And I had an elementary school teacher named Miss Frazier, Patterson Elementary School. She was the music teacher. I don't know what it was about Miss Frazier, what she saw in me, but Miss Frazier was like a life for me. And ironically, I did research later on, and I think we were like her first job out of
Wow.
graduating, right, from college and teaching in school. And I mean, those were the days you held your teachers in such high regard. At least like in the 80s you did. You put them on such a pedestal. They were like so untouchable. And Miss Frazier took such a liking to me. We have these end of the school year performances, and she called mommy and asked mommy if she could take me out to lunch in the summertime. It was like, oh my God, Miss Frazier is coming to pick me up. I was so excited. And we went out to dinner and lunch, and I had on my pretty dress, and it was just so special. And so I want to encourage anybody. As you can see, we're 3 generations across, still talking about the educators in our life that shaped us and did something for us. And if you have not reached out to that person or said anything, educators are one of those jobs that they're just going to go thankless, because when you think about it and it sets in, you're grown. Technology helps us a lot more because now you can look people up on Google and, you know, on Facebook and other things. But shout them out, because I waited and hesitated, and I went to reach out to Miss Frazier. Stop, Natasha, because I'm about to cry too. And Miss Frazier had passed a year before I reached out to her. And so I never got to share that with her, but she helped me see the beauty in myself, that I could be anything that I wanted to be. And so we just want to celebrate our educators out there. And we thank you for being mamas to us, to being nurses to us, to being therapists to us, to being advocates for us. And so we just celebrate our educators out there today, and we love you so much.
As a child growing up in school, we had Black History Day.
Okay.
Not week, not month.
Wow.
And it was Mary McLeod Bethune. She inspired me to see her out there as a Black educator. Started a new college, started a college on her own. And I just always admire educators when it comes to women. It's just a place they need to be, because I feel like they nurture the children more of a mother instead of just a teacher or educator.
I'm gonna tell a little fun fact here. This is really interesting because my mom said those were one of the women that she looked at that inspired her as she was growing up. And fun fact, we are not related to Mary McLeod Bethune, but we have some family connection to her. Shout out, that's my SAR too, Delta Sigma Theta. Ooh. But my mother's sister-in-law is the niece to Mary McLeod Bethune by marriage. So my Aunt Azalee, my mom's sister-in-law, was the niece to Mary McLeod Bethune by marriage. So shout out to Aunt Azalee and her family.
Aunt Azalee.
Which I didn't know before I pledged Delta, because if I did, I would have been telling everybody that Mary McLeod Bethune was my aunt. That was awesome. That really made my heart smile. I would like to know, when we talk about womanhood and we think about women who have made an impact on us, and we think about the lessons that we've learned, what is a lesson in your journey in being a woman? What's one of the greatest lessons that you've learned from another woman along your journey?
My oldest sister, she was a great inspiration. She was a hard worker. I'm telling you, she was a nurse. And she always had 2 jobs. She worked day, and then at night she worked at a nursing home. And for years she worked 2 full-time jobs, and she had 2 children. How to be able to take care of yourself do not be depending on anyone else. It's
Okay.
good to have a maid, it's good to have a friend, but she always say, always have your own money. What
You was
say?
keeping a secret stash from my daddy.
Always. Me and every other woman.
I like that. I like that. How about you, Natasha? What's one of the greatest lessons that a woman has taught you?
How to not be so critical of myself, and I think nurture myself. I think both of those women, the women that I mentioned, I think ever since I was a young girl, I've always felt just a lot of pressure to perform at a high level. I think in school, but I think it also permeated to just my whole life in general. And it sort of shaped my personality since I was a young person. And I was,
Okay.
the oldest of, three, kids. So I, just that sense of responsibility was always there. But I think that I was often lauded for my, achievements in school and just being like a good kid, but I never knew how to nurture myself. So if I didn't finish an assignment, or if I was too tired to come to school or too stressed out because I was maybe going through something at home, I just need to work harder. I just need to do more. And they told me to. I remember one time I was in like seventh grade. I think it was maybe in seventh or eighth grade, and I went to a college prep school, so it's a lot of homework, a lot of pressure. But my home life sometimes was chaotic. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't have the best relationship with my mom, but we had a relationship. And I remember one time in eighth grade, I called myself lazy. I was 13 years old. And she said, I didn't understand as a young woman that how much I was carrying as a young person. And I didn't have the tools to deal with it. And this is why I really thank God for her. She says, you are not lazy.
Yeah.
You're not lazy. You're coming to school. You're doing the best you can, but you are going through a lot of things that a lot of your classmates are not going through.
Right.
So I think that conversation always stuck with me because it's like, you're doing your very best. And at 13, 14 years old, I said I was lazy and I was working hard and giving all I got. I was not only going to school all day, I was playing sports after school, then going home doing homework, and then dealing with stuff as a young person.
Right.
And then just going doing it all over again. And they're not dealing with what you're dealing with. And I think she helped me just to slow down and say, you are great. You are doing fine. You are doing all you can. It really shifted my perspective because I was young and I didn't have the tools to even understand myself. And so I think that's I still carry that. I still struggle with that of like, just stop, breathe, nurture yourself. You are doing the very best you can.
Yeah.
And you are not lazy. You don't lack anything. You are not behind. You are not anything. And that really stuck with me. That conversation is something that really stood out.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about when we had our episode. We were talking about adulting, life unscripted, is that whole sense of perfectionism. Like so many of us suffer from that for years. I don't even know where it came from. Like this burden of carrying this sense that you have to be perfect and you have to be this. And it's just really a lie. And even something I want our listeners to carry from that too is there is power. One of the tough lessons are things for me as an adult, was the words that you speak over your life. It's so important what we say out of our mouths and how do we affirm ourselves, and having people in our lives that remind us of that, how we speak over ourselves, like speak life over yourself, speak beauty over yourself, speak encouragement over yourself, right? And I think that's really important. And anyone who's listening, no one ever told you that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to share these responsibilities and take on other people's burdens that aren't yours, because unfortunately, I think that's something can happen too, is that things are projected onto us that we carry that was never ours to carry. And so I really love that, Natasha. I think that's a great lesson. Mine, I want to shout out one of my sorority sisters, Kami, even though we're super close in age. One of the lessons, I was fresh out of law school and I was putting a lot of pressure on myself for, still gets me emotional. What I said all these tears today. And I was putting a lot of pressure on I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and Kami said to me, if you need permission to be a woman, friend, I'm giving you permission to be a woman. And I have said that to other people along the way on my journey, because I think sometimes I suffered for many years on people pleasing and made decisions to please people or please the family and do other things, and wasn't just able to stand in, I don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Natasha may be younger than me, guys, but she counsels me sometimes and gives me reminders about that. We just had a conversation about that a month or two ago, and I've always held on to that. If you need permission to be a woman, I'm giving it to you, friend. You're a woman. You don't need anybody's approval. You don't need anybody's say so. It's your decision and your decision alone. And I remember something happening that day. I can't tell you what it is, but it was this feeling that came over me like, I'm a woman. And it was just
Yes,
so
yes.
pivoting from that, I would like to, since we're celebrating Women's Month, one of the things that shrieks, that makes my ears hurt when people say, I really don't do women, I don't really do girls, I really don't do girlfriends. I just don't understand the statement because of my life path. I do understand people not needing a whole lot of girlfriends, but I very much so. And the truth is, I learned that from my mother and father. My dad's no longer with us, but mommy, you mind me shouting out your age? Is that okay? I do it all the time on Instagram anyway.
Proud of my age.
My mother's a young 81 years old, and even at 81 years old, my mom has friendships that have been 80 years, like out the womb, and my dad was the same. So our parents did a really great job of instilling the importance of friendship into us. And so I would like to talk about, because even like I said, if it's not an army of people, I don't know why it makes me sad to see women and they don't have one. You don't have one good friend or one solid friend. It has just brought so much to my life. And so, mommy, I want to start off with you. Why is it important, in your opinion, to have female woman relationships and friendships?
It's important because you need someone that you can talk to, not your husband, not your sister, not your brother, but you want a friend that you can talk to and you guys share stuff just between friends. At a time in your life, you say, oh man, I need someone to talk to right now. And it gotta be that friend. I remember when my best friend, Julia, passed. My husband and I, we was on our way to South Carolina, and my son called and said Juliet passed. And I said in the car, not meaning anything, I said, oh man, I have no one to talk to now. And my husband said to me, well, you got me. And I felt really bad. I didn't mean it that way.
I get you,
But I
Mom.
told him, I said, no, you know I'm talking about my girlfriend. You know how Julia and I talk.
Right.
But that was a breaking point for me. That was a breaking point because we call early in the morning, late at night, 3-4 times a day, and I missed that. But I had a couple more friends that we started, talking more. But having a best friend, that the best thing can happen to you, to me.
My mom has a really interesting, rest in peace to my Aunt Julia, a really interesting story because their mothers were really good friends. So they really met out the womb in church.
Yeah. We went all to church together.
My mom comes from a small rural town in South Carolina, so they went to the same church, they went to the same school. And drum roll, please, fate would have it, they both married men in Philadelphia and ended up in Philadelphia together. How about you, Natasha? What do you think about a good female friendship as we journey through womanhood?
I think that it's super important. I actually used to be one of those women, like, I don't like women like that. I don't trust women like that. But I learned that the reason why I did it, and I hate to go so deep, but it's going to be quick.
I already know where you're going. I know you're going.
It's one because I didn't have a nurturing relationship with my mother, right? That's your first female relationship. Is the relationship with your mother sets the tone for the relationships with other women in your life. And so when that relationship, and I love my mother, and I know she loved me, but it just wasn't nurturing, right? And so for me, because I felt in some ways maybe abandoned, rejected, that sort of colored how I perceived other women. And so I realized that I had like a lack of trust, and it was hard for me to be vulnerable with other women. And I also I don't have sisters. I do have a sister who I just found like a couple years ago, but I grew up with two brothers, right? So I was kind of a tomboy. So when I became a woman, developing friendships with women was a little hard. I felt like I trusted men more than women. And that is just the honest truth. I realized that it came from a wound, my mother wound that I had to heal. And so once God dealt with me in that area, now, oh my gosh, women relationships are key. They are key. They are the key. I think it was a statistic. They said that the quality of a woman's life depends on the quality of her female to female relationships. And I really believe that has some weight to it because I think it's everything. I think it's nothing like being nurtured by a woman. We understand each other. It's key. It's crucial. And so much coming from a little tomboy who had shit with women to now I'm like, I said, full blown princess. I love women. I really believe that one of my life's missions is to nurture other women. Because many of us have not. In any space that I go, I'm always gonna give you a hug. Are you okay? You're doing great. Keep going. I'm that girl because sometimes other women don't know how to give it to another woman. You did great. Are you okay? Do you need a hug? You want me to hold your bag so you can go to the bathroom real quick and go talk to your man? You all right? That's one of my life's missions is to nurture other women because when you get love, when you get that woman to woman love, you got your wings. You good.
Yeah.
And that's just one of my life's missions. So to me, it's key. And my female friendships, whether it's you, Gina, girls I went to school with, it has impacted my life and made all the difference. All the difference. So
thank you, friend. I really give my mom credit for that. I remember going to college and I thought it was so weird. I was 17 when I went to school and my mom was always a compliment giver. She always could tell other women they look beautiful. She liked their shoes or doesn't she have a pretty smile? Oh my God, don't you love her hair? Ooh, she smells like, so I was raised like that. And I remember going to college and one of my first friends I met when I started Morris Brown was like, you need to stop saying stuff like that. People are going to think you're gay. Like that's not like, just don't give people compliments like that. And I was like, what? Like that sound, and I did. I really cowered down for a bit, like, oh, you're not supposed to compliment, like, and then it's like it just didn't feel right. Like, girl, them shoes is banging. Oh my God, I love you here, girl. You wearing that outfit, like you're killing. That just came very naturally to me. Mommy, is that just something you did on your own? I just feel like you always modeled that well. You were always a compliment giver. Always a compliment giver.
You know, you don't always have to wait for a man to compliment you. We can compliment each other because we see each other. We like what they wear. You know, you like the hair. You like what the shoes. Oh man, I like those shoes. I like that dress. Whoever says something like that you gay because you complimenting another woman, something is wrong with them.
Yeah. And Gina is like that though. It's still like that's still who she is. I'm like, oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, I love your lips. Like,
always have been, right, Natasha? That's just who I am.
We compliment each other all the time. Still do.
So, like, I get my life. Like, okay, a man be like, oh, I like your shoes, but then like a woman.
But let a sister tell you she like your shoes. Yes, that's a whole different kind of compliment. I love that.
I take it.
I think to the point of us talking about how strong those bonds are, I think we're harder on women when we have a problem or issue. I think we're much more, this is just me and my humble little opinion, I think we're much more forgiving of men, but you let your girlfriend and your sister cousin, do something or y'all have some type of issue or whatever it may be, oh my God, it is the end. I mean, I even look at people who like something happened with the guy and you out for bloody murder, like with this woman, but the man is so easily forgiven. So I think for as much as we celebrate those female relationships, when something goes wrong, I think we get angrier. I think we're more hurt. And that's the reason why people act like that. But I think it's so much harder for some people to forgive the women in their life than it is for them to forgive a man in their life. I don't know what that is or what that comes from, but I have definitely seen that, witnessed that, and I really believe that to be true.
I agree. I think I noticed that I said I was talking about earlier that I felt like I trusted men more than women, and I knew that it was because of the relationship with my mother. But I think now with female relationships, I don't know if a woman hurts you, does it hurt more? Maybe we have like higher expectations from women.
Maybe that's it.
I don't know. I think maybe does it feel like more of a betrayal when a woman does something to you that hurts you? Does it cut deeper? Because that's what I was kind of thinking of, like when you were talking. Like, does it hurt more?
I wonder.
Don't know, but I know that now because I'm aware of that. Of like, wait, I actually am extra sensitive and take extra care of the emotional health of my woman to woman relationships because I know how sensitive we are. And sometimes even just like the way I'll say something, like maybe if it was in like a weird tone, or maybe if I said something that was like too crass, or even little things like if I didn't text back fast enough, not because I'm being like extra, but I know how sensitive women are and we're very like keen to the details. So I'll always go out of my way to say, I didn't mean to say it that rough, or I know that this is a sensitive area for you. And I know you didn't say anything, but if that hurt you or if that offended you, then, I'm so sorry. I don't think that's necessarily the dynamic that women have with men, but I know that we have this beautiful like fragility. Yeah. And so I take extra care to make sure like, all right, are you good? Okay. Cool. So
Yeah. I even feel like it's funny that you say that because I feel like I used to think it was not being married, but even my friends who are married and like that, it is this certain level of sensitivity that we come to each other with because I think sometimes my mom, we used to talk about this all the time too. Like men sometimes don't think about the things that we think about or celebrate things the way we celebrate. So we make a
Right.
big deal about, small triumphs or wins that each other have or
Right.
take each other out or send each other something or get each other something to celebrate it. And that's really important. And transitioning from that, I used to feel like what I've learned about womanhood over the years is that you don't have to have children to be a nurturer, right? Like it's
Sure
something that
don't. No.
comes so naturally to people, to some, because it may not be everybody. I think even for women, I hear friends say like, no, I'm not a nurturer, I'm not a nurturer. I just don't think nurturing comes in the same form for everybody. For everybody, it's not butterflies and unicorns and rainbows. For some people who my mom is a much gentler soul. She's gentle with her delivery, she's gentle with her approach, but I also have some women in my life that are not gentle with their approach and
Exactly.
delivery. And I need that sometimes too. I need to get things in a hard, I'm hard headed. So I need something to knock me upside the head sometimes. And so I appreciate that too, how we maneuver. Cause I used to think like, this is how I am, this is how I am, just take it. That's what it is. But no, I think you have to meet people. When you get to know people and you call somebody a friend, you understand what deliveries I think people need and how they need it to be delivered is something that you take care in. So I agree with you on that, Natasha.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about, you touched on a few things, Natasha, and that mother-daughter dynamic. For me personally, I feel like I learned so much about who I am as a woman from my mom, and some things I didn't. My mom and I have this conversation all the time. Some things we didn't talk about, and mommy, you could talk a little bit about that, just in the difference in the generations. My mom always talks about how freely I talk about things, and she's like, that is not how I grew up, Gina." What would you say to that, mommy?
Say it's changing times, and I appreciate the way you and I talk now. Man, I was a young mother and you was a child, teenager growing up. I didn't know how to discuss certain things with you as a young girl. I said that because my mom never did, sit me aside and say, what do you call it? This is about the birds and the bees. She
Mm-hmm.
was never like that. I learned about in school we had economic class, home economics, and that's when our female teacher used to teach the girls about certain things you would do and you did not do. But I never had that from my mom, and I had older sisters, and they never taught me either. So it was kind of hard to do that with Gina. But as time went on, I regret some of the things that I didn't discuss with her as a young girl growing up. But thank God, as she become a young lady, we became friends. We weren't mother and daughter then. We became friends, and we were able to discuss a lot of things then that we should have discussed 6 or 7 years ago.
She
But
probably overshares now, y'all. She be telling me too much.
what you say?
I said, you overshare now. You be telling me too much.
Oh yes, yes, yes. No, Natasha, she tells me too much. I said, "Oh my goodness, no, don't
Oh yeah,
tell me."
Gina is straightforward.
Yes, yeah, no, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it.
Appreciate that, mommy. Yeah, and I would say that to mothers and daughters. If you're listening, if you're a mother and daughter, some conversations are really tough to have. I can imagine, mom, just as a parent, hearing things, it might come across, like criticizing, or you think I'm a horrible parent. But I think sometimes you need the release. I want to shout out another one of my sororities. Says one of my line sisters actually, Keisha James. So Keisha used to say we would talk about things, and she'd be like, "Why are you doing that to Aunt Beck? If Aunt Beck don't want to talk, if Aunt Beck doesn't want to talk about that, don't be having Aunt Beck talk about that." And so I think you have to find the balance too, because some things it's easy for the conversation to be had, it's not easy for the conversation to be had. But one thing I can say for someone who has lost a parent, I lost my dad. There, on my end, my dad didn't leave here with anything unsaid by me. There was nothing. He left here. There's nothing unsaid on my end. This little verbal communicating mouth said what I needed to say. I think that's a really great feeling to have and to
Mm.
be able to do. And it's also another side to that, and having conversations with friends and family members, that sometimes people don't allow you in a space to do that, and you have to be able to make your own peace with that somehow how as well. What would you add to that conversation, Natasha?
So to the topic of mothering, I would say I had a young mom. So my mom had me when she was 18 years old. So, in hindsight, I realized that my mom was kind of growing up too. So she was very like kind of blunt with me. She was young. She was living a young girl's life. She was in the streets. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that she wasn't really strict. So she kind of like let me have a boyfriend really early. Like she was just very blunt. Like, oh, you drinking, you smoking. Okay, well, if you want to drink, you can drink with me. You know what I mean? Like so I was very like I had a lot of leeway. But I realized that my mom, at having me at 18 years old, when I was becoming, I was a little kid and even becoming like an adolescent or a teenager, she was very young too. And that's a very different experience. So you kind of feel like I guess the things that you sort of expect from a mom, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what, these are these life lessons. And she was still learning them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
She
how
was
about that?
27, 28. So it was a very different experience. And it did allow me to grow up fast, I think too fast sometimes. But I can appreciate having a young mom and appreciate that relationship for what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to say to both of you, even across the generation, you both are in that group of women who have lost their mothers. If there was something or some advice that you would want to pass on to a woman or another woman, or even mommy, you being somewhat older than Natasha, if there was any advice that you could pass on about that journey in womanhood without a mother, what would that be?
That would be, I would say, I had a lot of good memories with my mom. I was 26 when my mom passed, and we had good memories. So hold on to those good memories. That's what got me through. I would look at her pictures, talk with her every day. I would talk with her, and she's my angel. She's baby angel. That's my angel. And anytime I'm in trouble, depressed, and need some advice, I just call on baby angel, and she's always there for me. So just whatever good memories you have, just hold on to them, and they will definitely get you through. It's not gonna happen overnight. It takes time. It takes time. So you'll be all right. You'll get through it.
What would some be advice that you would give to someone, Natasha, if they were talking about walking through womanhood without a mother?
I agree with Ms. Becky that you should hold on to the good memories that you have. I
Yeah.
think that it's important to,
Mhm.
no matter what type of relationship you have with your mom, to still honor your mom and the relationship
Still.
that you had. And to always hold her in esteem. And I think just getting through as a woman, again, God always fills the gap wherever there's a gap. And sometimes that's really hard to accept, because you think, okay, well, I don't have my mom. How am I going to get through this? I don't. How am I going to do this? But God always fills the gap. He always fills the need. And so, a lot of my
Right.
mothering and the nurturing that I needed came from other women who weren't my biological mother, but I think just not only my mentors and other mother figures in my life, but just the other women in my life to really help me journey through womanhood. God has really filled that need in a beautiful way. So that would be my advice, that what
Right.
you feel like
Good
you
advice.
lost,
Hmm.
God will provide the need
It will
Yeah.
get
for
you
you
through.
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
the need.
And I think just carrying the memory on, I wasn't like my mom said, she was 26 when she lost some of that. I didn't have the privilege of meeting my grandmother, but my mom referenced Angel Baby. My grandmother's nickname was Big Baby. Her name was actually Sarah. And when I was little, my mom told me that I needed an angel and for me to name an angel. And she was like, and anytime you feel like you're in trouble, anytime you feel like, something's going on, that's the angel I want you to call. If it's as simple as you can't find your keys, this is the angel I want you to call on. And what do you want to name your angel? And I said Sarah. And so all through my
Mhm.
life, I feel like I've had this very unique bond. I don't know how to explain it to people with my grandmother, because I've always called on my angel, Sarah. And so I think even in those ways of keeping and honoring somebody's memory and carrying on. I've never physically met my grandmother, but I hold her dear and tight every day because of that. Kudos to that, Mom. That was really great. And so as we start to close out our conversation in this Women's History Month, I've really enjoyed. This was a very therapeutic. It was very unexpected. A lot of shedding and this. If nobody else takes anything away from the day, Mommy and Natasha have never met each other. They never had a conversation with each other before today, besides me telling the other ones about the other one, or Mommy listening to Natasha on the podcast. But there is such a synergy here today. This is womanhood. This is what it is: supporting each other, sharing with one another, loving on one another, even when we're strangers and just come in contact with each other. I know a lot of people say no new friends, but I met Natasha much later. I think I met Natasha when I was almost 40 in my very late 30s, and I love and adore you, honey. And so I just want to celebrate you. You've been a little sister, you've been a big sister, sometimes you've been a butt kicker at sometimes, and I love and adore you. And so I'm going to take this moment to just celebrate you, Kennedy, in her absence. I do not have any biological children, but if I had some, Kennedy Ray would be the closest. She is one of my village nieces, and we share so many like things about our personalities. Her mom, which is my best friend, always says my baby has so many characteristics of my best friends in her. And so I'm celebrating her in her absence. And of course, Mommy, it's hard to talk about you and not cry, but I'm going to do my best. And so I give you your flowers all the time. I'm not just saying that you're here to make witness to that, but just for anybody listening, for them, I'm celebrating my mama today. She is my ride or die. She's my best friend, my number one supporter. And I'm not married, so she's my husband too, y'all. And now I think the roles have changed. She's my child sometimes too. So it depends on what day of the week, what role we're going to be in. So I'm shouting you out, Mommy. Love and adore you. God bless me when he gave me you, and I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I enjoy being on. Nice meeting you, Natasha. You take care.
So nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you too.
All righty.
So ladies, we're going to close out today. I just want you to give me one word. When you think of woman, when you think of the womanhood, the sisterhood across the world, things that we all share, what is one word? If you just had one word you had to pick, what is that word that you would pick?
Word would be love.
I love that. I love that. How about you, Natasha?
Iconic.
I love that.
We do the do.
Yeah.
Very much.
Mine would be admiration. So many women, too many to name, that I've met, never met, who I didn't even live in a time with, but admiration. So love, iconic, admiration. That is what we leave you all with today. Find a woman in your life. Tell her that you love her. Tell her that you admire her. Send that educator an email. Find her on Facebook. Let her know that you appreciate what she gave you in your life. And so, ladies, on that note, we're going to cheers it up for another edition of the Generational Sip. I thank you for joining me. Get your champagne glass with your sparkling apple cider, Mama Beck. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Well, there you have it. 8 episodes in, and I will say this is one that really tugged at the heartstrings. I think for a lot of us, when we talk about the women who we know, the women who have inspired us, the women who have supported us, you can't help but to cry. And it's not even a sad cry, but just a happy cry, a cry of gratitude, a cry of celebration, a cry of just great memories. And so thank you for joining us in the conversation today. Remember, tag us on Instagram, comment on the post, let us know how you enjoyed the episode. Remember, life is too short for bad vibes and bad drinks, so keep sipping, keep chatting, and always remember, life is a journey, but it's better with a sip and a chat. Until next time, cheers. Thank you, sippers, for joining the S.E.T podcast, where we sip, eat, talk. If you've enjoyed our flavorful conversations, don't miss out on future episodes. Subscribe now and follow us on Instagram, at YouTube, at SipEatTalk podcast. Let's continue to sip, eat, and talk together. Until next time, cheers.